welcome to my YouTube channel, Careers Unboxed. On this channel, I interview Black professionals from around the world. Just so I want to hear their career journeys, what they've been through, what inspired them, what kept them going, why do they do the stuff that they do. And it's my hope as you see these Black professionals from all over the world, you will be inspired as well. So as we say in Swahili, twende, let's go. Hi, welcome back to my channel. Well, I'm very excited for you to meet my next guest. Her name is Gloria Mamwa. Gloria and I met many years ago where she was working as an interior designer for an architecture firm, and her firm commissioned me as a landscape designer and contractor for some of their projects. And that's how we met. And Gloria's journey has been, what can I say? It has been glorious. She has grown from being an interior designer, moved on up to become a facility manager, covering a country, then an East African region, and now she's a regional director managing facilities of over 25 countries in Africa and the Middle East. So, welcome. Let's go meet her. Well, Gloria, so lovely to see you after such a long time. Welcome to this channel.
Thank you so much, Carrie. It's been a long time. I'm so excited to see you and, just catch up and connect with you.
Yeah, for sure. And I think you've been through doing so much and all over the world. And I've been following you on LinkedIn and just seeing what you're up to, and I'm super excited for you.
Thank you. It's been a really, I guess, the word that I say is I'm really humbled a lot of the times by my story sometimes when I share it with other people, based on the fact that a few years back I would not have thought that this is where I would be. But thankfully, I hope you don't mind. I do believe in God, and I do believe that God has a plan. And somehow his plan works out so many things that we do not understand or even anticipate. I didn't ever think that I was going to, be where I am today, but the journey is not mine. It's set out and pre-planned prior.
Wow, well said. So maybe to start us off, maybe you could tell us where you currently working and what does your role entail?
Well, I'm working for Standard Chartered Bank, and I am the regional head of property for Africa, Middle East, and I'm based in Dubai. My role entails, I guess, if you thought about corporate real estate in other organizations and just the end user part of it, occupier services. And what it entails is taking care of the bank's properties where we do our business across Africa and Middle East, and it includes the asset management and transaction management space. It includes the facilities management operations as well, project delivery, health and safety, security, and then we've got a portion under me that it takes care of operational risk, because we do have a bit of risk that we could expose the bank to in different spaces. Some of it could be regulatory, but a lot of it's generally for the safety of our staff and our clients as they access our premises. So that's, in a nutshell, what I generally do. It's pretty wide on any day, but it's exciting. I tell people that every day I wake up to go for my day job, I can't predict everything that's going to happen on that day. I may have a things to do list, but different things could happen in different markets, and you're dealing with anything. From a security incident to a generator that failed that has impacted a whole business, operation. So it's exciting. I love what I do every day.
Okay, wow. And so I'm curious. Okay, so maybe to start us off, I know you began in architecture, and that's how you got where you are at. So maybe begin by what sparked your interest in architecture? How did that happen?
Wow, actually, growing up, I always wanted to be a doctor until about age 12, when I'd spent so much time in hospitals for one thing or another. And I said, you know what, enough of hospitals. I don't want to do this for the rest of my life.
Okay.
So I had to sort of figure out what else would be of interest. And I had my aunt had always, I know she always talked about it. She always wanted to do architecture in university. And you know how the Kenyan universities are, if you miss a particular subject point and in your cluster, then you don't get into the program that you want to go in. So she ended up in urban planning. Having missed architecture, but she always talked about wanting to do architecture. So then that sparked my curiosity around what is this architecture about? And I immediately just got immersed and with a passion for just the built environment, so to speak. So I did architecture. I also did interior design. I've then also done project management as well. And so whilst my current role is a very general management role, I'm still excited that I have those foundational principles from architecture, the built environment, to be able to support my current role today.
Okay. So maybe you could tell us, I know you've kind of mentioned it, but maybe you could tell us how that academic training, where you said you studied architecture, project management. How did that kind of open opportunities for you? Maybe you could go a little bit more into you and I, when we're working together, or when you were the consultant and I was the consultant under you, you were the lead, maybe a landscape interior designer, or the lead. So maybe walk us a little bit through your career a little bit.
Okay, cool. I can do that actually. So when I was in school, I came to school here in the US. I'm actually sitting in Seattle at the moment. For this interview. So went to school in Boston, Northeastern University, and had an opportunity to have a co-op program with Payette Associates, and learned a whole lot around institutional design. And so that for me kept me really connected to the architectural industry. And then I moved back home to Kenya, where I started first with just mainstream interior design. Joined Classic Moldings at the time, and mainly focused on interiors. And at that point, Classic Moldings were really doing, wall finishes, ceilings in gypsum, which was quite trendy at the time. And, people wanted were really spending on wanting, different designs rather than flat ceilings and, normal wall lights and stuff like that. So that was really exciting in terms of a journey. I then moved from Classic Moldings into Dimensions Architects and focused on interior design, worked with Charity Strongsmo, who's I think still a director at Dimensions. And we worked together on several projects. And I think one of the things that I picked up from her was just the level of detail that she focused on in terms of her design. She was really, really good at pulling out some really rustic designs through what she put out to the clients. And I think I picked that up and I thought, wow, this is really interesting. So with that, I then moved to Triad Architects, where we met. And at Triad Architects spent about 6 years as the head of interiors and then associate director interiors. And during that time, I also did my project management certification as well, because I ended up finding that I was, you design for a project, but the way things are in Kenya is that you almost design and you're also the one on site managing the project timelines and that kind of thing. And so I thought it would be good to also pick up a skill set that helped me and supported me deliver for our clients. And so that working for Triad Architects also exposed, a lot more in terms of, because we were working with the architects at the same time. So a passion of mine, I was like, you're making a mistake here. So I was able to consult on both the interior side that I saw in terms of, how it would look finished compared to what an architect would look at. And I recognize those sort of differences, given that I'd already studied architecture as well, even though my passion ended up being interior design after that. So then, after those, so I picked up, project management. I was very successful at being able to deliver projects. And one of our clients then picked me up and sort of enticed me onto a role on their end, which was Standard Chartered, to sort of deliver projects. So I actually joined Standard Chartered as a project manager, working on delivering projects in East Africa, Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania. And then, from that particular perspective, it then exposed me to the other parts of the built environment, the industry itself. So facilities management. When you're in design, you're focused on your design and how it will look. I then got a role. I was actually 6 months in the bank. I was then I was then asked whether I could take on facilities management. Facilities management is not something that I'd really focused on in terms of what does the industry mean. In Kenya, it was not very mature. People knew property management, but not facilities management per se. So when I was being asked to take on facilities management for East Africa, I thought to myself, I don't know whether I want to do that. And anyway, still decided whether this is a high risk or a low risk engagement and whether it was something that I wanted to learn. Learning is a strength of mine. So not so afraid to jump into the deep end to be able to sort of pick up new experiences. So eventually I said yes, and took on the head of facilities management role for East Africa. And wow, what an immersion into the other side of the world, in terms of, oh my gosh, we designed that, because from a facilities management perspective, it has to be practical, it has to be maintainable, it has to be accessible for it to be maintained. So when we design corners like this because it looks good from an interiors and architectural perspective, the facilities manager is looking at it and going, so how do you expect us to replace tiles in that area? How do you expect us to clean windows in that corner? How do you expect us to sort of do cabling in that space? When you design without raised floors, how flexible can we make the space? So learned a whole lot managing facilities management. So now I had the full 360 of what the built environment looks like, which was really exciting in terms of that. Then after that, grown into just general management, because I then took on the management of the total function at a Kenya level, then an East Africa level, and now at an Africa Middle East level. So it's been growing from strength to strength, and continuous learning on a day-to-day basis in terms of what that is. So that's how my career, the way it started and where I am today. It's amazing. And I didn't think, as I started those foundations, that I would be where I am. And does it work for me today? Yes, it does. Because I still have architects and project managers who are selling me stuff in terms of solutions. My education and my experience in that space helps me challenge, what is being presented rather than always accept. I can be curious. I can ask for different solutions. I can challenge on cost because I understand the industry. I can challenge on applicability in a local market because we are a global bank. So, local solutions are probably best to enable things to have a longer maintenance period. And if we're providing solutions that are not sustainable, then I'm actually now in that space that I can challenge because I have prior knowledge and experience.
Okay, amazing. And you say it's Africa and the Middle East, right? Is it like, are you guys in every country in Africa, and which countries in the Middle East?
So we are in 15 markets in Africa, and then 10 markets, Middle East, North Africa, and Pakistan. And that's how we sort of built that sort of region and put it together. Yeah, so it's a total of 25 countries.
Okay, amazing. Wow. Okay. Yeah. I'm just imagining, you coming up as a professional in a maybe a where there are few women, I would imagine, because not many go into architecture, or maybe not many go into facility management. And even as a Black woman in this space, I'm just wondering whether you've experienced any career barriers or challenges, and how you overcame them.
I think first, as a woman, there are career challenges, and I'll give you an example of coming from Kenya, you understand the mindset, especially of the technical space, so to speak. So I remember my first experience was we had a site meeting, and the architect in charge delegated to me based on the fact that we were both running the project. Yes, him from an architectural perspective and me from an interior design perspective. But on that particular day, he was not available for the meeting, but the meeting could not be cancelled. Scheduled meeting, lots of people. So went on site, sat down at the table. Everybody sat down and they continued to talk. I tried to get attention and they all just looked at me once, and then they decided, the boss who's supposed to be running the project is not here. So then I then said, okay, whoever was here for the meeting can stay. Everybody else that's not here for a meeting can leave. Otherwise, I will take my records based on whoever is here for the meeting. This meeting will start now. And we can, and I think it took people a bit of, I had to be really assertive in that session to be able to get people to listen, that actually I'm the one who's running the meeting, guys. Stop overlooking the fact. And at that time, I was actually the only female in the room. So obviously, it was not an easy setup. But I think I took a decision at that point and I said, you know what? I'm the one with the authority here, whether they like it or not. They're going to either have to listen or walk out in that sense. And if you don't want to be in the meeting, then just walk out, because as the lead architect, we can decide whether you want to continue the job or not. Absolutely. Or whether you should continue the being on the project or not. So I think, from that point, you start to feel, the differences, especially in developing nations where, females, engineers, architects, interior designers. In fact, interior designers may be more acceptable, but the more technical roles in that kind of environment got a little bit. You still get quite a bit of challenge rising up the ranks. I think the fact that I'm female and African, and where I'm positioned at the moment in terms of, in Africa, Middle East, seated in Dubai, leading a region, has its own challenges as well. One of the things that I guess for me I've gained as a benefit of my education and exposure is the fact that these differences exist everywhere you go through. Going to school in Boston, there were differences. We worked a little in the US before we moved back. You still felt those differences. But I think the difference is your attitude, how you value yourself as well, makes it a little less of a burden as you go through. Which you hold on to values that should strengthen you. And personally, for me, it's I like your picture there. Ask me of the nations, and for me, knowing who I am as a child of God has really helped me get the perspective of the reason why I'm here is because I've been allowed to be in this situation, right? And I have to be 110% the person that God put me in this particular role for. And so holding fast to my values and my beliefs and being able to project that I am in an unapologetic way has sort of helped me get to where I am. I am happy to throw a challenge in the room about behavior when it's not right, but I don't bear it on my shoulders as an issue, because we all have our faults, right? We all come in the room with perceptions. We all have different cultural exposures depending on where you are. But I do believe I'm a change agent, and I think that change agency of mine is really around culture change. and being able to allow people to accept others as they are, because that's who they are. They'll never change, right? That's essentially who people are if they're coming in authentically. So I try and remain my authentic self. When there's differences and challenges, I'm the first one to say, I'm sorry, that's not right. I don't accept, I'm not a doormat, so I won't accept, won't accept being stepped on, and moving on. But I also don't hold grudges around the way people behave, because it's to carry it on me means I am carrying additional weight that's not mine. So you're the one with the problem. I'm sorry, go deal with the problem. So I get to move on with my life. So.
Okay, I like what you said about being a change agent. I think, and also this idea of not carrying that kind of it's too much, right? It doesn't stop. So I agree. No carrying grudges and just being light wherever you can be. Yeah. So maybe that leads to the next thing that now I mean, and you've just kind of said it right now. You lead teams of highly skilled professionals from different cultures, different countries. Oh my goodness, so much to play with. So I'm just wondering, for you, what are some of the soft skills that you have found to be beneficial in kind of managing your work situation, and also managing maybe your home or other kind of situation, so your private life and also your work? Soft skills.
Wow. I think soft skills for me would be, come in with an attitude of learning, in terms of you're not the know-it-all. I think being able to come into a space and say, I want to learn. How do things work for you? Before you'll come into a space having perceptions, because people would have informed on you different things about different cultures, different countries. This is what happens. The Middle East is primarily Muslim. This is how they treat women. I'm like, no, let me go in there and learn. And there's a huge amount of, I guess, presuppositions about people and cultures and that we feed off on, rather than going to learn about people and what they and who they are and the different things and the ways they operate. So when I'm working with my teams, my main job is to sit and listen and learn. And from that particular perspective, become an advisor, not an instructor. Because it's more, okay, so I get it. And I know how difficult it is to be able to do this. What would make it easier for you to be able to deliver? Clarity around the messaging and what you want to achieve with the team. And depending on them to find the solutions on how they will deliver it in their own markets, based on the fact that they know their markets. And so you're the expert. I can only tell you that this is a vision. This is what we want to be able to achieve. But tell me how you'll be able to achieve it in your context, rather than me driving it down. And I think when everybody is invited to the party to take a decision, it's a lot easier to manage teams in a diverse setting than it is to try and drive a message down and be a dictator of how things are done. You just have to be accommodative, letting people in, also being transparent and authentic. And when I say a bit transparent, it's being able, you don't know what you don't know, and if you're open to say, I don't know what I don't know, help me learn. I may have come from a premise of this is what I thought would happen in the market, but help me understand why it is not why I think how I think it should be delivered. And I think coming in with that makes a difference. And I think one of the positions that I've also taken, to be honest, is whilst I'm a team leader, I'm still a member of the team.
Okay.
To be able to understand. So if I need to roll my sleeves and get my hands dirty, let's do it together, and drive the outcome. So it's what I always tell people, it's not about the role is the role. It's an office, but it's not the person. The person has to be authentically who they are. I'm a worker. I'm happy to be part of the team. I'm happy for you to tell me, Gloria, you're not doing the right thing. And help me understand how to do it in the way that you feel will drive the results. So I think there's that humility and authenticity that has to come out through it. A role doesn't define you. You define the role. Yeah.
Gloria, I almost want to come and work there. but I think that is well said. That is, you really hit it. Yeah, a role doesn't define you. Being a team member and just being authentic and being humble, right? Being there.
Yeah.
Those are good takeaways. All right. So I'm curious, like, how does your typical day look like? Maybe walk us through what your typical, and you said some days are not typical anyway. You wake up with what you think you're gonna do and doesn't quite go like that. So walk me through what your typical day looks like, and maybe generally how your month kind of works out, so just so somebody can understand.
Wow. Over the last 2 years, I don't know what a typical day looks like. COVID presented a different real life situation in terms of the things that we're managing on a day-to-day. But I would say a typical day for me is, running a region, you have lots of engagements with different people, whether it's countries, you've got different stakeholders. So my typical day is full of meetings in person or video conference. I do try and take some time. I'm a morning person. So if I need to get activities done in terms of focus time, I do reserve that time in the morning. So whether it's papers that I need to read, getting ready for management team meetings or other engagements with stakeholders at any one point. So that's one. I try and keep a buzz. So with the way things happen over COVID, we then moved into a hybrid officially kind of contract where I've got a few days in the office and a few days work from home formally. And so when I come to the office, my intention of being in the office is to connect with other members of my team. Sometimes if it's other colleagues that are sitting in different places. So I'm a believer in management by walking around. So if I have to go and sit down, part of my team includes the receptionist, the guest relation host that meet everybody at the building. If it means, spending like 5-10 minutes at the reception, just checking in with them and finding out how they are. People tend to say that when Gloria is in the office, it's quite busy, it's quite noisy and laughing and that kind of thing, which is a good thing, because that's the environment that I enjoy creating, where people can feel free to be themselves. If they're upset about a meeting, they can come and go, it was a really bad meeting, I didn't like that, and we can hash through that. So I do spend a bit of time connecting with my team members, whether in person or on video conference, because a majority of them are outside the UAE. So it would be a VC.
Gloria, if I could just interject, maybe you could also, because you said in the beginning, your day kind of dealing with stakeholders, maybe tell us who those could be. And then when you say your team, maybe tell us like what, is it the architect on your team? Is it like, who are these team members? Just in terms of maybe their work, their role.
Yeah. So my team members, so I've got a regional head of workplace who takes care of more the project management team that delivers projects. And then he also oversees the workplace, the facilities management space in terms of delivery. So like say on a Monday, that would be an engagement. He's in the office really early on Monday morning when I'm in the office, because I also try and get to work before 8 o'clock, normally between 7 and 7:30. I'm at my desk. So I spend like half an hour just chit-chatting with him around what's going on in the region, what are the key areas of focus, any help that he requires to be able to support his role. I'm quite autonomous when it comes to leadership. So I do believe everybody runs their shop on a regular basis. I'm not a micromanager, so I don't, I'm depending on you to sort of take responsibility and deliver that. I'll have an engagement with my regional security head once every 2 weeks, just to understand majority of the risks, if there's any that I need to be involved in. We have a system that allows us to escalate issues as they arise, because it shouldn't wait for 2 weeks for me to engage with him formally. Keeping an open door system. When it comes to, so that's my team. I have cluster heads of property that are based in the different clusters. So the way we are set up is we've got an East Africa cluster, we have a West Africa cluster of countries, and we've got a Southern Africa cluster of countries. I mean, a Middle East and North Africa cluster, and then I have Pakistan as well, because it's big enough as a country that matches some of the clusters. So I will have engagements and touch points with those cluster heads to sort of pick up, are there key areas, and it's connecting. Sometimes it's not even a formal connection. It could be WhatsApp. How's it going? Everything all right?
Yes.
And then my stakeholders are the regional CEO, the regional chief financial officer, regional business leads. So whether it's from a consumer banking or wholesale banking perspective, some of my stakeholders would be the cluster CEOs as well. So they follow that sort of format. And my engagement with them is really more to touch base on one, from a business perspective, because I'm in a support function. My role is to support the success of their business. It's trying to understand, what can we do? What are we, what direction are we moving in your view? Are we supporting you, and how can we accelerate the different outcomes in for your business? So that's what my engagement is. We've generally outsourced a lot of our direct delivery. So when it comes to architectural services, when it comes to project management, so we buy the specialism now in terms of being able to get that to deliver our projects. And that's why we are now really more driving from a strategic point of view in terms of the roles that are retained within the bank. Okay.
Thanks for that. That gives anybody a picture of what it means to be boss.
It's not an easy. I keep telling people, anyone else aspiring to this role, let me know.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, it's kind of big. And so how do you stay sharp?
Wow. I read.
Okay.
I run. I balance my community service. That keeps me sharp. Staying connected within the real estate world keeps me sharp. I spend a lot of time in my reflection and quiet time because wisdom comes from God, in my view. So therefore, I focus on that. That's what keeps me sharp. I don't think I'm sharp all the time. There are times I've gone and said, I think I need some few days off. But that's what keeps me sharp, and a daily routine of fitness, well-being, exercise. So I run. I picked up running a few years ago, and I've never stopped. I never thought I would, because in high school through school I was athletic, but I spent time doing a lot of the short distance running, so 100 meters, 200 meters, and anybody who told me come and run a kilometer, I would tell them, you're killing me. But these days, I sort of picked up. I started by just running 1 kilometer. Now, I can regularly do a 10-kilometer run every 2 or 3 days.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So those are the things that keep me sharp. And then I guess the other thing I don't want to miss, my faith keeps me grounded. My family, without that balance, all these other things would be really worthless. And I think I find that as an outlet for me that enables me to come back fresh the next day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. And now, I'm sure so many people are always wanting to give you advice, and of course, as a younger person and so forth. But I'm just curious to know, what career advice are you glad you did not take?
Well, I can tell you for sure. Leaving the US and going home, I was told, you're definitely just making a mess of things, Gloria. You'd have done a lot better just staying here and working here. And I think for me, it was a bold move, for one, because there was no guarantee when we're moving back to Kenya that we would get the job the right job, so to speak. The job market was not in the best condition. But I think in obedience, we went home, and God opened the doors. Finding a job in interior design was a surprise for me at the time, but I did. And that was just the launch pad of everything. So I'm glad I didn't take the advice to stay in the US, because I think I have a more fulfilling life having gone back home. It meant resetting and restarting a lot of things. And I think my advice is sometimes you just need to do that. It may take you back a few steps, but it's a really positive outcome when you learn or relearn a lot of the things that you probably would have forgotten living in a probably more privileged society, that going back home, everybody would fear to be able to do that. If I hadn't gone back home, I don't think I'd be where I am today.
Wow. Which year did you guys come back go back to Kenya?
2005.
Okay.
So if you think about it, at that time, employment and technical employment was very low. It was a very high competitive environment, with everybody coming out of university and me coming back from the States to try and compete in that space. And one, as an older person who wanted to get paid a little more than a graduate.
Okay, yeah, for sure. All right. Well, thank goodness for your obedience. And then, so what advice would you have for a young professional or a teen who is starting out, or maybe considering the profession that you're in, or at least maybe one of the earlier ones you're in? What advice would you give them?
I would say, look, everything is about commitment and hard work. And I call it hard work intentionally, because architecture is not easy. You're an urban planner. Having gone back, it was not easy to do that again, right? And it takes a lot of commitment, and nothing is handed down to you for free. And therefore, you've got to be committed to the cause, committed to what it is you want to achieve. Set goals in terms of your achievement goals, and work to achieve them. Work towards getting there. I say do what it takes, but I think do what it takes has been misused. Do the right thing.
Okay.
In terms of making sure that you achieve your goals. Get the help that you need, guidance. Speak to people who will help you understand. I was talking to my son, and one of the things that we were talking about was, I asked him, why do you still want to do architecture? Don't you think it might be phased out by tech and AI and all those things? And he's like, yeah, possible. Parts of it could be, but I still want to do it, because I might be the one building the AI to support, the change. And I said, hey, that's a good way to look at it, right? So there'll be a lot of external factors that sort of try to discourage you from wanting to achieve your goals and your outcome. But you've got to think about how adaptable you are and what you're willing to learn through any process. And I think for me, as I've shared earlier, I'm a continuous learner. You don't stop learning, regardless of whether you've graduated. The graduation certificate never tells you, okay, you're done. It doesn't mean that you're done learning, having done that. You have to just be open to receive and bring your whole self to what it is that you've committed to. One of the things that I keep saying is, if I hadn't given 110% of myself, so to speak, it would be difficult to achieve the things that I've achieved so far. And all by grace, but it would be difficult, because I think in my position, I believe that I have to bring my best at any one time, and to any situation. So I'm also back in school right now doing a second MBA, and somebody asked me, why would you do a second MBA? I said, I'm just a learner by nature. And my first MBA was a British MBA, and I'm doing an American one now, which is quite different. So it's really high-paced MBA. I'm having to really find the time and the focus to be able to do it. But I finished my first course, feeling really great. about it. Great results as well. It means that I'm still sharp.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Yes, you are.
But you never stop learning. That's one of the things that I must say. And you have to be open to learn. So regardless of what career that you look for, just make sure that you're choosing it for yourself, that you will give yourself to it to be able to make sure that you succeed at it, and write it out and set out your goals and be very clear about what you want to achieve through what it is you want to do in life.
Okay. I think with that, somebody can take and just run.
I hope so. We're not the wisest, so there's a lot of other people who will give different guidance, and I think for me that's my version of my guidance to anyone who's looking for a career in architecture or medicine or whichever.
Okay.
It takes people's commitment.
Okay, fair enough. And any parting shot as we come to the end of this interview?
Well, I think for me, one of the things, and I know we were chatting earlier, and we were talking about, how far I've come. One of the things that I thought would be really interesting to share was I sit on the global board for CoreNet Global, which is the real estate association. And it's got different, chapters across the world. So I belong to the Middle East chapter. I joined the global board in 2019, and I've been on it since, and I'm now the chair elect, which I take over in the things that God does. I take over 1st of April. Just saying it gives me goosebumps, by the way, because I keep saying, this one is just not something that I had seen coming. When I joined the board. So I'm in Seattle. The summit starts on Sunday. But we've got the board meetings starting later on today, and then tomorrow and Sunday morning. So if you'd asked me 6 years ago whether I would be sitting in this role, I'd have told you, you're dreaming, right? This is just not, for someone from Kenya, what are you doing sitting on an international board? And I think in a lot of ways, I feel like I'm privileged to be able to be in this position. What brought me here was my interest in CoreNet Global and what they do from a real estate perspective. One, because corporate real estate is not mature on the African continent, if I was to be blank. And when I a few years ago, I was in a program and I wrote a goal for myself. And one of the goals was I was going to be able to try and influence the real estate development and maturity on the African continent. And when I wrote it down, I was not sure where I was writing it down. There's those blue sky thinking things that you sort of write and say, yeah, okay. And then I got this opportunity or this invitation to the board, and I thought to myself, yeah, wow, okay, yes, okay, fine. You know what? I will explore it. And so now sitting on the board, I think for me, one of the things that I am focused on, obviously, is to try and make sure that I am bringing along my brothers and sisters on the continent and people who look like me into the real estate world, whichever way. A lot of us who are in corporate real estate today are former engineers, architects, project managers. So it's the built environment. So it's not an unfamiliar space, right? And we're now serving in real estate and making buildings better for people to sort of work better, live better, that kind of thing. And so what I would say is, as a parting shot to anybody, is don't underestimate the power that is within you in terms of, what you can actually achieve. When I wrote that goal a few years ago, I did not think that I was going to achieve it in less than a year after I wrote that goal. That's how quickly it came. And so as I reflect back on that, I can't forget why I actually wrote that goal. And so as I continue, I also carry a lot of people's visions. And I think I'm humbled by the fact that I am an African female, going to be leading a primarily American-centric global board. which is I call it very humbling, but I also bear a huge responsibility to make sure that I'm giving back through this opportunity. So don't underestimate what is within you. Set out your goals. You don't know when you'll get there, but don't not bring your best self to every situation. So that's what my parting shot would be.
Oh, wow. Fabulous. Thank you so much. Maybe you could tell us, what does CoreNet Global do?
Well, CoreNet Global really brings together real estate executives and members together from all over the world into chapters to, for thought leadership, for just networking, for learning. Because one of the things that I did, what got me into CoreNet was learning about there's a certification, the Master of Corporate Real Estate. Because I was coming from a consulting background and then leading in corporate real estate, I needed to bring some knowledge to that part. So that's how I got into CoreNet through the learning program. I have since completed it's now the MCR, Master of Corporate Real Estate, but I've also done the Senior Leader of Corporate Real Estate, which is now the executive certification. So having done that, it's kept me connected with the networks within real estate, and it's got a whole lot of people. It's got end users, i.e. people like us from Standard Chartered Bank, people who deliver real estate from within their organizations, and then it's also got service providers, the CBREs, the Cushman Wakefields, as part of the membership. So you can imagine the kind of thought leadership that's being passed on through those networks, as well as also just different engagements and exposures to what's going on in real estate around the world. So that's what it really is about in terms of, being able to, if you wanted to understand CoreNet Global, they're online, so you can always hit them up.
Absolutely. I'll do that. I guess that's also why you're on this board. Those are some of the things that you'll be kind of like looking into, and it's also a very challenging time to actually lead the board, if I was to say that. But I'm just just a little bit to hear that.
It's interesting. I think one of the things that I've always, we've always built the environment around, designs, different things. COVID has brought the human back to the center in terms of why we do all these things. Why do we put air conditioning in a building? Why do we put plants, in the environment, in terms of, what are we trying to do? And so with that in mind, a lot of us were forced into flexible working over the COVID period when offices and industries shut down, and there was nothing else we could do other than work in that environment. Now, we've now developed a muscle for working from home, which means when we're thinking about offices, we need to balance out the office space with what people are getting from being at home. In terms of, I can have this session without worrying about, I need to go to the office and connect at, into a video conference room and that kind of thing. It's now more flexible and closer to me. So as we think about real estate in the future, especially corporate offices and what they're going to do, we're now thinking around what will bring people back into the office in terms of, what are those activities that will bring people to the office. And remember, it's not, you can see it's not because you have a job that you're in the office. What activities are you doing that will bring you back to the office? And I think we're trying to be able to understand what that is. A lot of us are on the journey in terms of, what does that look like in terms of the built environment. A lot of us are talking about collaborative spaces, areas where people can collaborate together, either on a project, on a session, an assignment, or we talked about the other word that's coming up is connecting. I want to have a coffee chat with my colleague. I don't want to have to wait to, I don't want to do it online as I'm doing right now. I just want to have a friendly coffee chat with somebody else. And then I think the key obviously is, offices have silently been a brand emblem, so to speak, of particular organizations. But I think there'll be need to make that a lot louder in terms of corporate identity present in the building. So I think those are some of the things that we're discussing right now.
Okay.
But there'll probably be a lot more as we continue. But I think collaboration is going to be one big piece of the human experience in an office. Whether it's I think a lot of people are talking about, think about the Google campus and what we could possibly borrow from that space to sort of roll out into our offices. So it's different things. But the purpose of the office is not dead, as people have been, asking. I think it will serve different things for different organizations. And I think it's for different organizations to understand from their staff and colleagues, what is it they would need from the corporate office to be able to deliver that and attract them back into the space.
Okay, well said. Thank you so much. Thank you, Gloria, for making time to come.
No problem.
With us. Yeah, and thank you for sharing your heart and really wisdom for everybody. It's not for any young person. This is life wisdom. So thank you.
No problem. Thank you, and thank you for having me. It's great talking and sharing and being connected to you after such a long time.
Absolutely, absolutely.